Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for being here. We're at the Paul Revere School. We're at the third installation of our community conversations with the mayor. And so this is our third meeting. We had one at the Rumney Marsh Academy, I believe, or SVA. We have one at the Jack Satter House. This is our third for Ward 5. So I really appreciate the fact that everyone will take the time to come out, hear a little bit more about what's going on in the city, and give us an opportunity to answer any questions that people may have, and also get an opportunity for the community at large to get to know and hear from the folks who work on your behalf every day in senior leadership positions. So without further ado, I do want to acknowledge some of the elected officials that are with us tonight. We have our host, Ward 5 City Councilor John Powers, has made the trip, and we have our Ward 2 City Councilor Ira Novoselsky. Thank you for being here. We also have members of my senior team that I want to acknowledge and give a shout out to, and you may be hearing from them in a little bit. They include Kim Hanton, who is my Chief of Staff, Richard Viscay, who is the Chief Financial Officer for the city, Chief Chris Bright from the Fire Department. Everyone wants to hear about the fire station, I'm sure. Dr. Kelly from our school district, Donnie Charamella from our infrastructure team, talking about pipes and sewers and drains. We also are joined today by the director of 311, Nick Romano. We have the assistant director of 311, Randy Mondison. We also have our parking director, Zach Babbo, our ISD director, Mike Wells, and our planner around all things open space, L. Baker. And I think that's about it. IT director and Revere TV. Shout out to all those folks for making all this happen, the magic happen behind the scenes. And of course, we can't forget our good friend Claudio, who's doing translation in the back for everyone to make sure that we get the message out to as many people as possible. We're also joined by a couple of newer, one new, one that's been around for a while, two employees that work on behalf of the city and making sure that we're connected out in getting information out to our residents, and that's Maddie Alvarez and Samanda. I'm blanking on your last name, Samanda. She just started with us, and she's our first liaison who's working out of the 311 office to make sure that we're doing more proactive work in terms of getting out into the community. So we're really happy to have all of you here today and be able to answer some of the questions from our Ward 5 residents. I also see a Ward 5 resident and someone who has been a tremendous advocate for folks with disabilities, and someone who's worked tirelessly at our food pantry, Ralph DeChico. Thank you for being here, Ralph. So what I was going to do was go through a few of the highlights of what is happening in the city, tackle a few things that you may have heard about, and then we'll get right into questions. And we have a number of questions that have come in already from folks, and then we'll go from there. So many of you have probably heard about ARPA. That's some federal money that the city got based on federal legislation that was passed last year. And this gives the city an influx of cash of $30 million approximately. But we are required to spend that in certain ways, and those ways are around water and sewer and broadband infrastructure, providing small business assistance to our small businesses in the community, household assistance, economic recovery, public health, and travel and tourism. We have, I hope many of you have seen that we just ended a program that provided $250 to owner-occupied properties in the city. We know that was a very successful program. We are going to look at potentially doing that again, but that was something that I thought was really important, that we not necessarily hold on to the money that we got from the federal government, that we get it back out to the residents. We've also been able to provide some additional funding to youth and sports programming in the city, and using this money as economic recovery for some of the organizations that have been affected by not being able to fundraise and to do other things like that. So, finally, we did open up a travel and tourism office. And this office really was to take a look at making sure that we're being very intentional about how visitors come to our city and how we capture every potential dollar from the folks that come. We have a sand sculpting festival that happens every year, and that brings upwards of a couple 100,000, maybe, I think the numbers might have been fudged a little bit, about 1 million, but we get a lot of people that come to our city, we know that, but how does that connect to the quality of life for our residents? How does that connect to the tax revenue that's coming in? How do we make sure that some of the new things that are happening, like the new restaurants and hotels that are opening up in our city, are connected to what's happening, and making sure that we're just taking advantage of the gem that is Revere Beach. So that's really the focus of the Travel and Tourism Office, and that is a category that's been outlined by the federal government in a way that we can spend that money. So that seemed like a good idea. So that's the American Rescue Plan Act, and that's we've done a lot of outreach, but I always like to take the opportunity, and we've asked folks to scan in and be able to answer this question about what their priority is for ARPA funding in these categories. We did a lot of public outreach around this. You may have gotten phone calls, you may have seen messages on social media and all other places, but we really tried to get an idea of what people want to spend the money on. Because if you talk to, if you talk to 10 or 15 different people, you might get 10 or 15 different answers. For instance, if you talk to Donnie, he says all of that money should go to water and sewer improvements, and that's it. $30 million gone, and that could be one or two projects. So we're trying to make sure that we sprinkle that money around, and that we do some water and sewer improvements, which we have been doing, but that we also do what we can to make sure that we're providing household assistance to people, and we're keeping up with public health and all those pieces that are eligible under ARPA. So if you're done with that, we can move on to our next slide, which is us talking about the Point of Pines Fire Station. Now, everyone wants to talk about this one, I'm sure. I will start off by saying nobody, well, actually, one person might be, but I would say that nobody's more frustrated with the amount of time that it's taken for this project to get to where we are than me. Second might be John Powers. Third might be Chris Wright. So there's a pretty close race in who's the most upset about this. But there's no doubt that project has been one that was really important for me. First coming into office, we did the work to make sure that we had a feasibility study done to see if we could potentially even keep the old building. We couldn't. We knew we had to go out and build a new building. We got to that point of getting a bond authorization passed by the council. Unfortunately, we got hit with a couple of things. One is COVID. We did have some setbacks in terms of getting our planning process for a public project that is going to cost upwards of 9, 10, maybe more money, $9 or $10 million. There's a lot of red tape that goes along with that, which is very frustrating for us. But the latest on it is that we did have there was a state appeal. The Department of Environmental Protection actually had appealed a decision that was made by the Conservation Commission, which doesn't typically happen, but it did, and we were a little bit dismayed by that. We were very upset, and so we, with many others, kind of came together, and there was a site visit where a large number of people were very vocal about the need for this and the fact that the state should be helping us move this faster rather than slowing us up. And they did ultimately withdraw their appeal from us, from our Conservation Commission decision. And we are in the process of reflecting the changes that we need to make because one of the hiccups, I mentioned COVID, but one of the other hiccups that hit during the feasibility and design phase for this was that there were new regulations that were promulgated by the state around how you can build in floodplains and in coastal areas and in cities like Revere. Those new regulations took effect January 1st of 2022. So all of the work that we had done prior to that was not taking that into account. And so there is some work that we'll need to do to update our final drawings, go out to bid, and then finally get some shovels in the ground and have a building built. Hopefully, we can get out to bid. I think the timeline has been before the end of the year, maybe even a little bit earlier than that. Get out, and get bids in, get bids back, and be able to start construction in the new year. So a very frustrating process. I think it can ultimately end up being a good case study on how challenging public work can be during COVID, because that project truly did hit right in the middle of COVID, and we unfortunately we're in a place where that has been a hot topic for many people. But the one thing that I do want people to understand is that it is going to happen. It is real, because there were some rumors that it was all big sham. But we have all the documents. We have a biweekly meeting with everyone, the project team. We have city councils involved in that. Everyone is apprised and knows what's going on a very timely basis of the progress that's being made. But it's been a very frustrating process, and one that I can't wait to cut the ribbon and have that station opened. And I know the residents of the Point of Pines have been waiting an awful long time for that. So we will make that happen. The next topic that we were going to bring up was the Riverfront Master Plan. I know another hot button issue for Ward 5 and for especially the Riverside and the Pines. But just as an overview, I think folks really don't take the time to understand that it's not just a building that's being built at the old G&J site, but we truly have a Riverfront Master Plan that encapsulates the entire section of the Riverside that was the old boatyard, obviously Gibson Park, the passive park that is also there, and the G&J site. And the one thing that I'll say about this is that we have, through the process that we've been through in terms of going to the Seaport Economic Council, going to different state agencies, and even our congresswoman, and asking for money and showing what can happen when the community's involved, city council's involved, our great planning department's involved, and we all come together and have a true master plan that's aspirational around public use and thinking about this underutilized little portion of the city, and taking a true public-private partnership and having $100 million, nearly $100 million of private investment, coupled with tens of millions of dollars in public investment. And that public investment comes in the form of, as I said, state grants that we've gotten, federal grants that we will be getting, and really truly making that section of the city beautiful. And with the the fire station coming online and a redevelopment of the riverside, including potentially having a public launch for the Riverway, having a boatyard, having a truly active space, redoing Gibson Park, and having amenities that we don't have anywhere else in the community. Riverfront and the master plan that has come along with it really is an aspirational plan, and I think a lot of people have said there's no way that the city can pull that off. It's just going to end up being 300 units stuck in the middle of nowhere, and there's going to be no other improvements that are made. That is not going to be the case, and we've gotten the state and federal dollars to back that up. So that we're excited about where we are with that, and I'm sure there may be some more questions. I do want to give a shout out to Elle for all the tremendous work that she's done around the riverfront. I know this is her baby, and you can see everything from potential rain gardens, dog park, community garden, having community boating, an active dock on the riverfront, and having a renovated multi-purpose field over there. And I'll say this: like those are all the shiny, nice things that you get to see on the surface. The other piece of it, and I know Donnie cares an awful lot about this, is what's going on underground, and the drainage improvements that can happen as a result of some of the work that's happening down there, and the improvements that can be made to pump stations and other things that people don't necessarily think about. We like to see new parks and we like to see fancy, community boating centers, but obviously people care about what's going on under the ground as well. Another poll, we asked folks if you can rate what you're most excited about. We'd love to hear that, or take a look and try to give us an idea of what you'd be excited about. That would be really helpful. Next, we're going to talk about 311 data, and I don't know if any of the folks from 311 want to come up and say a few words about this, but generally we want to do this when we talk to a certain neighborhood or a certain section of the city. We want to be able to say, hey, this is what you've cared about, and this is what you've been calling us about, and try to get a sense of whether or not that's truly accurate with what people are hearing and seeing and feeling. But I know we've gotten a lot of questions about the $250 program, and some other questions that don't fall into a neat category. But you can see sanitation, both in terms of street trash, missed trash pickup. Trash is a big deal. We get that. We want to make sure that we're picking up your trash. And health and building inspection requests. The one thing that I do know is that there have been an uptick in the number of complaints that we've gotten around rodents, and so we definitely want to talk about that a little bit. And we've had our folks at 301 have gotten very well versed in all things rodents, and I might have them talk a little bit about what they're seeing in the neighborhood. I don't know if one of you guys want to come up and take a crack at it. But I'll say this: generally, there's a period of time when I was mayor that you would have thought that rodents were running the city, and we got away from that. We took some really I think innovative steps, and I'll give a shout out to Rich Viscay, our CFO, who was a little bit of the driving force behind the barrel program that we have, in terms of saying, hey, we can do this, we can make this work financially, and it ends up being a benefit to the community and to the residents, and it's gonna, oh, by the way, it's gonna make sure that rodents, the complaints about rodents do go away. So I'll shut up now. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. My name is Randall Mondestin, Assistant Director of 311 in the city of Revere. I'm also a resident of Ward 5, right in Delano, or Delano, how you want to say it, but I say Delano Ave. And I manage the rodent program for the city, and we started around, 2018. Rich Viscay found us some cash, about $100,000, to actually battle the rodents. We came about, we had about 2,000 waivers, and we had 4 exterminators at the time, basically to try out, like, all the different methods to try to get the rodents, out of the city, or not in the city. But we ended up going through that, and then we ended up finding 2 exterminators, B&B Pest Control and MD Weaver. One does one side, so B&B does the west side of the city. We kind of separated on Broadway, so the west side, and then the east side is MD Weaver, and MD Weaver actually is from Shirley Ave. The manager actually is from Shirley Ave, and he knows the city pretty well. So when we got the uptick in the rodents in Ward 5, I personally, with the public health, actually went to the beach side and started walking up and down the streets with the exterminator, trying to see where we can actually, physically see some of the activities and stuff. But it's really difficult, and it came to a point where the people that didn't have the waivers are the ones that had the activity. So if you see right here, we actually had a uptick, and you can kind of see it up like towards the beach side and towards the middle of Delano, Alden, and Lancaster. And we ask everybody to kind of, have your neighbor join the rodent program. It's a free program, you know what I mean? That's the biggest thing we can ever ask for, because we need to, kind of get this stuff going. But we went up and down the street. We went all the way down Pine Road. Riverside, actually, when we first started, we found 107 burrows, rodent burrows, right on North Shore Road, and that portion of the area, 107 burrows, basically kind of inundated the Riverside. And ever since we found those burrows and eliminated them, the Riverside hasn't really been calling. This is all data from actual calls from our residents on the beach side. So I know the construction is a big effect, but they think it's the construction, but it isn't, because of the fact that rodents only run about 3 light poles away from where they live. So we are physically looking for like burrows, activities. They did bait before and after the construction. We also have our exterminators, the MD Weaver. Constructions have to bait by themselves, and then we have our MD Weaver basically check it out and see if they baited enough. So that's the big part of our program. So again, it kind of spiked in the summer. A lot of people started seeing during the day, and what I found out and what I've learned is when they're during the day, they're actually dying. They're looking for food. So, like, I'm not a exterminator, but when they do come to your house, if you have the waiver, they'll ring your doorbell and they'll explain to you what it is. And the barrel program was also a big help. That actually decreased the activity throughout the city also. But I'm here for any questions. If you have any, I can help.
Were you able to find any burrows on the beach side?
We did end up finding some, it wasn't like at the beach. We found it actually under the bridge, which is MassDOT. And that area, we can treat it, but we don't want to treat it with taxpayer money. So we've been reaching out to MassDOT and trying to see if they can even clean along the way, like Gibson Park. You know how they have the shrubs along there. Because the shrubs, it kind of mask where the holes are and stuff like that. So we reached out and see if they can trim the sides so we can actually see if there's any burrows on there. We even walked along behind the pump station to see if there was any, but we just saw a lot of bunny activities. But it was mostly, like I said, I'm not trying to point out anybody, the people that had the activities are not a part of our program, which they need to, and then we'll be able to kind of drive them out too, so.
A lot of the people that are not part of the program
Yeah.
is because
Yep.
refuse to re-sign a waiver.
Okay.
If they signed one the first time, they should not have to sign it again.
So legally, it's 5 years. So if they sign in 2018, it's about time for them to re-sign again.
That was a lot of the issues from
Right.
residents of the Point Pines that I've heard from them.
Yeah, so, and the other situation is too, is that we're not having these exterminators go to the property and just like keep rebating the property that it's not having crazy activity. There's something called a runway. If they see there's a rat running between one house to the other house, your house is not the problem house. They're not stopping and eating. They're just crossing back to either go home or go get where the food location is. So sometimes an exterminator will make a decision to like, okay, they don't need a bait box because the rodent takes about 3 weeks for them to even touch the bait box. So that's basically taxpayer money we're just leaving there, and then the baits expire and it's not gonna work when a rodent eats it. So what they tend to do is what they're looking for where the major activity is so we can just smoke them out. And when we first started, the one thing that Mayor Arrigo wanted was something that was not harmful to animals, humans, and pets and stuff like that. So we actually have the top quality bait boxes that is like a little squirrel. The only thing that can really get in there, I'm not trying to be, sad, but is chipmunks. And we barely have chipmunks up here in Point-of-Pines. So chipmunks, like Beachmont, not a lot of activity because of the fact that there's so much skunks there. And that's their feeding, So the Point-of-Pines are seeing, and the biggest thing is too, we're right by the marsh. We have river rats all through the Revere, all the way up to North Revere, all along the Seaplain Basin and all that. Ward Street right behind BJ's. We have the exterminators baiting all the time over there. So it's like really trying to find where the pinpoint location is before we can even just, keep, giving you baits, and it's not really serving a purpose. So that's why we ask everybody to kind of bring their neighbors into it. It's a free, and some people are scared because they like, oh, the city's getting into their property and all that. No, if you want, like I live in the Point-of-Pine, I have kids playing outside, and so if you want your property well off, I would definitely join this program while it's still here too, so.
So I have a question. Back in 2019, I'll
Yep.
never forget it, it was Juneteenth, 2019.
Yeah.
And I had someone from the city came to bring my 2 boxes.
Your barrels?
No, not
Oh.
barrels, the boxes.
Oh, the bait box, I'm sorry, yep.
So I recently requested online
Mm-hmm.
through the city's website for another one.
Yep.
And they said that they would bring one.
Okay,
We still haven't received it.
okay, and when was that?
Maybe like a month ago?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know why there was a pause. So because of the uptick, and I even talked to Kim Hanton, spoke to the mayor, we were trying to figure out what we were gonna do with the Point-of-Pines area. If we really saw a heavy activity, we would probably do a blitz. If we got word from the exterminators that, oh, this is the situation. But we were trying to make a plan with the public health because they ended up taking over the whole rodent program. They're basically managing it with me. And we were trying to devise a plan in order for us to make it more efficient and basically be able to find a solution and not dishing out bait boxes to every house, you know what I mean? So there was a brief period where we were trying to figure out everything and also allowing the exterminators to catch up too, because 2,000 waivers, and they're also trying to go to houses that have the waivers that are repeatedly getting activity, so.
And my
Yeah.
other comment was, has it been considered birth control?
We've been talking about this.
Oh, no, I have the answer for that. No, we were literally talking about this around 2 o'clock today. So that was actually brought to us at Renau, our chief of public health, Lauren Buck. That was actually brought because I went to San Diego, and that's how they decreased their pigeon population. But the problem about the rodents is you need to keep feeding the same rodent like week after week in order for them to be sterilized. And it's not guaranteed that you're gonna feed that same rodent or where that rodent is laying. Like I can put food right there right now. They might smell it, not touch it, and go somewhere else. So it's the consistency of giving the birth control to the rodents and being able to give it over. It's not
Isn't that
compatible.
the same way with the poison?
Well-
Because the rat poison, because my husband keeps buying it.
Yeah, I put it in the trap, I opened it.
Right. So, but you're not guaranteed it's the same rat that's going to that poison too.
I've had a lot of bodies.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So,
And he goes, we
But-
think it's eaten.
yeah, it gets eaten, but the birth control, it's literally you have to take it like day by day. Like they have to feed it to them every day. If you miss yeah, it's like a prescription. If you miss one day, it's
Really?
or if they have an infection, it's on.
Okay, well, I actually have heard something that they're using in Seattle, Washington. I'll have to find out more
Yeah.
about it. But it's something that they take
So-
and it makes them infertile.
Yeah, so we would have to look into that. So before we started this program, I reached out to Chicago, New York. I reached out to a lot of Washington D.C. is the one that gave us the biggest push. At first, we were starting out with dry ice, and then we found out it was too expensive and it wasn't eliminating enough rodents. So then they came out with the carbon monoxide machine. So that's why if we find burrows right there, it's like a field day for the exterminators. So they have a carbon monoxide machine that handles that.
Sterilization stuff that they have
Mhm.
does both females and males.
Right.
It doesn't take, you don't have to do it over and over again.
Right. So as of
I
like,
mean, these rats are having babies every
Right.
23 days, and they're having 18 babies every 23 days.
yeah, no, I completely understand. But what I'm gonna get to too is, like I said from before, the problematic areas are in places that we can't even like go on without the landlord allowing us. We're not allowed to just go on someone's property, and even if we were able to give them the birth control, we can't go on their property. So we need them. Once if we find another way, another method that eliminates all rodents, so I will be all behind it. But it really is like trial error. We even talked to Somerville. Somerville has like this box that's automatic that like the rodents go in and electrocutes it, lifts it up and puts them in a barrel, and then somebody goes there and grab it. But we found out each box is $550 and it holds only like maybe 5 to 10 rodents. But we need all of them gone. So get a dumpster that size and I'll be behind it too. So we have to find a way to do this properly where we're not just spending money. Right
Yeah.
now the method is working. We just like what we're asking for to make it work even more is have your neighbors sign up. We just need those.
Just poisoning them and letting them give birth every 18 days
So,
is,
the thing
you
is-
never get ahead of it.
Yes, but the thing is, if we go on a property and we find a borough that has, like I told you, we found 107 boroughs right on North Shore Road, and they covered up the holes and pumped carbon monoxide. 30 minutes, they're all done. They're fertilizing our marsh right now. How many some boroughs are 50 rats a borough. And I'm saying Riverside was inundated at one point.
But if they left there, where did they go?
Oh, no.
What is it?
They went to my side.
No, I mean, the borough, when 107 boroughs, they came with, I think, 5 or 6 exterminators. They covered all the holes. They have a machine the size of like, I don't know, but it just pumps, like, think about putting a hose in your that's a good one. Put like a hose in your muffler and they're just pumping CO2. They fall asleep and then they die right in that burrow. So this is what we're trying to do. If we can find the burrows, then we're golden. Like I said, the people that they instantly die within 3 minutes. And then they have like the exterminators around.
And if people have burrows in their yard.
They'd be doing the same thing.
311.
Yeah.
And let them know that
And-
there's burrows there and you guys will come and do that.
Yep. And if, yeah, so if there's burrows and you have if you have burrows on your property and you have waivers and you're telling me there's burrows there, I will extend the exterminator. Sometimes the exterminator takes about like 2 to 3 days, but if there's an active burrow, they sometimes want to get there sooner so they can actually take care of it.
Is there someone to approach a property owner who hasn't signed a waiver?
Yeah, so this
So
is
you
wh-
can let them know you have active burrows on
That's a
there?
great question. So our liaisons, our 3-1 liaisons, are going to be walking with our public health chief and deputy director to the houses personally, the ones that we see that are problematic, and see if they're willing to join the program. It's like I said, it's a free program. Exterminator comes in there. The they do what they have to do, see if they need any type of thing. We do not do internal of, like, the internal of the house, but yeah, we'll get there. But we are gonna start doing that within the next couple weeks. So we're gonna get Samantha and Maddie set up with public health, and they're gonna go out there. They have all the addresses that we kinda, and I'm telling you, these addresses would never know there's rodents on their property. When I'm walking, like, we were walking down the street, and the guy's like, "Oh, you see that?" It's like just a little sliver of a hole going under, like, a front porch. And he was like, "Yeah, no cobwebs, no this, no that. You can see a little scurry. There it is." So,
I mean, if it was me, you approached me, I would sign it right
yeah,
away.
yeah.
So I could, yeah,
We're going to do that. That is one of our
perfect.
tasks, yeah. So, any other questions? Trust me, I live in Ward 5, and I have kids, and I don't want to see a rodent, trust me. I'm not, no. And this is the one reason why in 2018, I actually went to the mayor. Actually, it was before 2018. It was like, yeah. And 3-1 just got wind of where there was like a huge rodent population in West Revere, and we ended up taking care of it. So now the data, I don't have all the data here, but if you look on 3-1, we should have it. But the data, we were getting almost like 100 calls a day about rodents. Now we're getting maybe 10 or 5 calls a day. But the data did show that it's definitely down. But it always spikes up like right before spring and right before fall because they're trying to go hibernate and try food.
I contacted 311.
Yeah.
Haven't had contact back yet,
For what is it?
because I've got activity in my front yard,
Okay.
so.
So after this, we can talk. And they did run out of door tags too, so if they did come to the house, they don't have door tags. We just ordered some to replenish them. So I'm here. I'll let the mayor finish off. Hey, John, what's up?
I just have one question, one concern.
Mike?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Over at the G&J site, I know we're baiting over there at least once a week.
Yep.
When we're doing the pile testing and all that.
Yep.
Something came to my mind, and down at the Walmart where the old hotel was down there next door and a few other, is it possible that any of those rodents, when they broke the ground, could be coming over into the Point of Pine section?
So that's actually something that Matt M.D. Weaver, the manager, because he did say back in the day that Lynn area was a trash site at one point by the Whole Milk. Is it Hood Milk that was over there? Yeah, Hood Milk.
Yeah.
They did say that at one point they were baiting over there extensively before building. That is something that can happen.
Well,
Like
that
I
was my
said.
question. Is
Yeah.
it extensive, and, how extensive is it? Is it comparable to what they're doing at the J&J
Right.
site?
Well, I'm not too sure, I tell you the truth, because all MD Weaver told me is that area was problematic for them, because B&B Pest does manage over there in Lynn, and
Okay.
MD Weaver has.
I just
done
think
it.
it's something we should look at. Thank
Yeah.
you.
But that's contradictory to what you said earlier.
No, I was
You
saying,
said 3 light posts is all they travel.
no, what I'm saying is that it could cost, because I said we found some on the bridge area, all right? So where the old club is, and where they're doing the, how you call it, where the, yeah, the old Building 19, that's still, like, when it's low tide, they can run right under the bridge. And I said we found it right under the bridge area. And now I have to call MassDOT for that, and we wouldn't be able. So when I talked to MD Weaver, they said that that's something they can cause. It's not like he went and inspect. But when MD Weaver does come to Gibson Park and stuff, he can definitely see the baits and all that stuff. That's something I do know. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm gonna let the mayor keep talking. Thanks.
I have one question. Did
Yeah.
you ever think that you would know as much about rodents? When you came to work for the city of Revere, did you ever think that?
I even think it was gonna be my job.
So, I guess I'll pause and, because I think that was a pretty good back and forth in conversation. If any folks have any questions about anything that was said before, either on the fire station or the Riverfront master plan, happy to take those questions as well.
And if you can just wait until you get a microphone so we can hear it.
All right. I think Did Ralph? Oh. Use the mic, Ralph. Come on, follow the rules.
Just one quick question on the timeline in comparisons to the Riverfront development and the Point of Pines Fire Station. Do we have a timeline in comparisons when the Point of Pines Fire Station could be in completion and when there's some occupancy for the Riverside project? Well, the Point of Pines, hopefully the Point of Pines Fire Station will be completed
Yeah.
before there because of the units and development being done there?
Yep, yep. And so right now, I think the timeline is probably pretty close, and I have to be honest, I don't know off the top of my head. And if anybody from the city knows that, we can get you an answer. But I think if all goes right, with both projects, right, in terms of the residential development that's happening and the fire station, they'd be pretty close with the fire station probably being done earlier than the residential.
Could I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
It's not gonna be popular, but I would like to see no occupancy permits given out until that fire station is complete.
Totally agree. I agree. Totally agree.
I hate to be Debbie Downer, but I would say that because, you know, we see how the traffic is over here, and I hate to see a situation that happens down there, and the fire apparatus can't get down there with all the units down there.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, any other questions, comments? So technically, legally, I don't think that we can hold up an occupancy permit for somebody based on something that's not under their control, right? And so that would be, I would have to look into whether or not we could actually do that legally.
Are there other avenues that you can go through? I mean, it's a safety issue. We don't have anything down there. We're like sitting ducks,
Right,
especially on a summer day.
right. And absolutely, and that's why we're building the fire station, and that's why we're doing it. I would have loved to have had the fire station open by now. I mean, like I said, nobody's more frustrated. Maybe these two gentlemen, maybe a lot of residents in the Pines, but that's why we're making those investments, right? And to the extent that we can get that fire station open and occupied, the chief, we've talked about staffing, and hopefully we'll hear soon about a staffing grant that we put in that will help us tremendously in terms of making sure the Pines Fire Station is staffed. We'll have equipment for it because we'll be buying some more equipment for the fire station relatively soon. So that'll be fully staffed and fully operational when it's open. So, and the goal is to get it open before anything else. So.
Thank you.
So this is a question from Lancaster Avenue, and basically, it's one step further than what the gentleman just mentioned. Will the 290 units and the fire station and our pipes, our sewer and water,
Yep.
which to me, as a public health nurse, I'm almost way more concerned about
Right,
that, our sewer and our water systems, because I don't know how. I mean, luckily on Lancaster, we don't have as much of a problem with people that live on Rice Ave. When there's a big storm, as Donnie, I'm sure will tell you, I
Yeah.
mean, we have major water and sewer issues.
Right.
So yes, it's sort of a threefold prong: the water sewer, the fire station, and the 290 units.
Yeah.
And that's my question and concern
Do you
from
want to talk a
Lancaster.
little bit about the water and sewer improvements?
Hi, Don Chiaramella, the Chief of Infrastructure for the City of Revere. So when it comes to the water and sewer, we really held Redgate to task. So if I can get the Point of Pines back up here, I'll explain some things. They're actually doing some things for us that we never had. And one of them is redundancy for the water system for the Point of Pines. Right now, our water main for the Point of Pines we get fed from the boulevard. The Riverside, on the other hand, gets fed from North Shore Road. There's no crossing right here, so it doesn't loop around. If we have a break on the boulevard, then what happens is all of Point of Pines will be out of water because there's no redundancy coming back across. What there is right now is there's an old 6-inch that goes to the G&J site, exclusively for the G&J site, and it doesn't go back to the riverside. When I first started this job as a water and sewer superintendent, the first week of my job, I had a break on North Shore Road with a 10-inch main. When that happened, all of Riverside lost water. So now what's going to happen is what we've required Redgate to take out this old 6-inch line that's broken three times since I've been on this job. Pretty much shut down traffic in the middle of the night to repair a 6-inch line that goes across that doesn't do anything but feed the G&J site in the Mirage, in the daycare, the adult care center. That's all it does. So now, starting Wednesday night, we've required them to, on their own money, to bring in a 10-inch redundant line across here. They're starting Wednesday night, Thursday into Sunday to bring it across North Shore Road on Sunday night onto their site. Then bring it down through Gibson Park to tie in back to Riverside. Now, if we have a water main break on the boulevard, Point of Pines gets fed through the Riverside, through their development, and back into the Point of Pines. If we have a break on North Shore Road like we did 4 years ago, the boulevard will then kick in and feed the Riverside. So that's redundancy. We don't have that now. So that's a big plus. As far as their sewage is concerned, they're going to produce about 44,000 GPD a day, gallons per day, for sewage. They're going to use about 49,000 gallons per day of water. Our station, our Point of Pine station, right now operates between 85 and 115,000 gallons per day. That's for about 350 homes here and about 150 homes there. Altogether, 500 homes. Well, in a nutshell, you have 291 units. But in fact, it's not the same consumption or output. So what's going to happen is they're producing 44,000 gallons of sewage a day, but they're treating this. We've required them to treat this. They're going to have a 2,200 gallons sewer station on their own with 2 Surumi pumps. What they're going to do is they're going to be able to handle their own sewage during the day, and then at specific times, they're going to be able to pump it to our station. But before they pump it to our station, we've required them to treat it. One of the biggest problems we have in the city is grease and things that people flush down the toilet. Things that they call flushables. Well, they're not flushables. You know, me and Nick Rice from the city engineer, during a demonstration, tied those flushables, those wipes, together end on end and had a tug-of-war match in front of school children, and you can't break it. Well, this same material goes through our sewage system. And in the city of Revere, we don't have the benefit of sending sewage through gravity. We have 30 pump stations in the city of Revere, 13 of which are sanitary sewer stations. So we are pumping our sewage up and out of the city. So these flushables, you know, get caught in our pump and they clog the pumps and they cause a problem. Well, what we've asked Redgate to do is install what they call, the trade name is Muffin Monster for the lack of, you know, what it does is it pretty much grinds and treats the sewage into nothing but a shale liquid, almost a liquid. So what we're going to be receiving them, the 44,000 gallons of sewage a day, to our station, where we already output between 85 and 115,000 gallons gallons per day, is going to be totally treated. And so I've also required them to upgrade our sewer station. to double the capacity. Right now, or almost double the capacity. We have about 2,500 gallons of capacity in the ground, wet well capacity in that sewer station. And they're going to add to that 2,200 gallons on that same property to accommodate all of their sewage. And also mechanically upgrade pumps at their expense, because that was one of the contingency. And one of the questions was, could you hold up their occupancy permit? Well, I put that language in there, that these upgrades needed to be done before I would sign off on occupancy. I just won't, because I know we can't handle the station, we can't handle those 291 units unless these upgrades are done. But there are some benefits that we are gonna get. That redundant line, I saw Chief Bright nodding his head, he knows the benefit of that redundant water line. He knows I'm gonna be fed from North Shore Road, I'm gonna be fed from through Point of Pines, and eventually, soon, I'm gonna have my redundancy, my sixth connection to the MWRA, when the MWRA brings their line across the bay, which we all know what that project's all about, because that connection we lost many years ago underneath the bridge, but soon we'll have that. You know, we have a lot of benefits to the city. We have 5 connections to the MWRA water system, where Winthrop has 1. We have 2 connections to the National Grid power system, where Winthrop has 1. So, you know, our city has a lot of redundancy, and so there are some benefits. And, you know, this, like I said, this water line, this 10-inch new water line that's going across, that, again, I said I will not sign off an occupancy permit. Well, they're starting it tomorrow night. You got the email, you know. And they're being held to task on that. They're not even out of the ground yet, and they're starting that water line. The sewer pump station, they've already started the upgrades. I told them they've already ordered their pumps, they've already ordered whatever they need, they've already hired their own engineers, and they're handling it. And so, you know, we're holding them to task with those issues. And, well, pretty much that's in a nutshell, I think, you know, for as far as water and sewer. I don't know if there's any questions. No.
Without fail, Donnie always gets the applause. He does. I think we could just do conversations with Donnie and just have him talk about water and sewer infrastructure. And so a couple of quick points, just other things that are going on in terms of infrastructure. As you can imagine, as we, you know, a lot of people say, well, there's a lot of tax revenue being generated by the city. What are you doing with it? We committed a couple of years ago to providing Donnie with $50 million to do a bunch of improvements, water, sewer, drain, street, sidewalk improvements. So we're in the second year of really trying to put a lot of money, both, and that $50 million includes state and federal money that we get for clean water and things like that. So, you know, as you can tell, whenever he talks about the infrastructure in the city, you can see the passion that he has. So I inherently trust Donnie when I say, you know, make it as efficient and as effective as possible. You have a whole bunch of money, and go put it to work on behalf of the residents, and he does. So I think that's important to just call out that, you know, the tax dollars that are generated are getting back to the quality of life for our residents and being led by Donnie. Suffolk Downs, anybody that's driven by has seen that there's some movement in terms of the redevelopment of Suffolk Downs, and I know there was a lot of conversation about the life science and biotech space that will be highlighted down there, but we're really excited about the fact that that project is continuing even through what looks like it will be a challenging financial climate that we have ahead of us, they've committed and they've got all their financing and they're moving forward with that project. So that's again, more opportunity for investment, and none bigger than the high school that we're building. We have come to a conclusion on a site. The site will be Wonderland. We're actually in the process of the taking of the Wonderland site. Now, the city council will be voting on that pretty soon. There's a public hearing coming up in October, and as that moves, we'll have a world-class, state-of-the-art high school, and it will cap off a really incredible school district that we have, and creating a pipeline for the young people in our city to be able to have really great jobs at a site like Suffolk Downs. And then finally, I wanted to call this out. We have, a lot of people have driven by Squire Road, and you see the hodgepodge of businesses and the way that it looks, and we're kind of taking a hard look and a focus on making sure that Squire Road is somewhere that has a little bit of a theme, I guess, or it's coherent. I joke that like you can get insurance, you can see God, you can get your car fixed, you can have some some fried food. You can do a lot of different things on Squire Road. None of it makes a lot of sense. So as we think about the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years, Squire Road is a really important part of the city, and one that should have some further plans and some aspirational plans for it. So our planning and community development team is working on that. And then I like to close out my part of this, and I know we're going to get into questions and answers, and we have some virtual questions already. But at the end of the day, the real the focus of my administration really is to create a community, and this is why we do events like this. We try to embrace the folks that live here and have them understand that we're here working on their behalf. I think if you talk to the folks that are here from the city, that they have an incredible passion for the city, care about it, care about what we're doing, and we just want to make sure that those goals of being inclusive and really bringing everybody to the table and giving everybody a sense of belonging is called out, and we say it and we talk about it, and that everyone has an opportunity to have their voices heard. So with that, I think it's a good segue to open it up to any other questions that people have. I know we already have some questions that are queued up that might be addressed, but if anyone, I guess I'd start with if anyone in the audience, any live human being wants to ask a question, have at it on anything.
Can we jump back to Gibson Park for
Sure.
1 second?
Yeah.
Is there any way of getting a crosswalk or an overbridge or something like this? These kids go over to that park, and
Yep.
there's a lot of streets there to cross.
Yep.
And I've seen mothers with carriages with their children
Yep.
running across because there's so much to deal with when you
Right.
cross. There's no crosswalk to actually get
Right.
across from the Point of Pines.
And we don't have a good rendition of the traffic improvements that are being made, but I believe that there was a conversation about connections to the Riverside and the Pines, like back and forth, and making sure that the playground is more accessible in a safe way, and that we're
I mean,
thinking
even
about
if they did a footbridge,
pedestrians,
like they
right.
did down at the train station,
Right.
it would be better than them running across
Right.
3 or 4 highways.
Right. Yeah.
A few years back, I had asked for a crosswalk, and there was a question on who could actually get granted to us. I think
Yep.
it was owned by the state,
State,
and that's
yeah.
why we couldn't get a crosswalk from Delano to across the street to, what's the street? The Linway.
Like across the Linway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
across the
Yep.
Linway. I think
Yep.
that's more of what we're asking for.
Right, okay,
But
okay.
more
Like before,
current.
in front of the, what would be in front of the Pines Fire Station?
Yes,
basically,
right in front of
Right
it, so they
there,
can
yeah.
cross from like Delano, Alden, right across the street.
Yep,
I mean, I want it now, not like,
Right, yeah, yeah,
not later when
yeah.
this happens, because kids will get hurt over there.
Right, right.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, and I definitely think that and I don't know in terms of the Pines Fire Station, like, you're talking about, you have this little kind of island in this, section. This can definitely be more pedestrian friendly, where the fire station's going.
Yeah, just like maybe across.
Yeah, yeah. But even, I mean, there's that, like, awkward little, the awkward triangle, and, that could definitely be taken a look at.
Yeah, because you're crossing over the on.
Right, the on-ramp, yeah. And it may be like having something here and then kind of making sure that these are connected, properly. We could do something. Right. Somebody, yep,
They're gonna
Yep.
get killed.
yep,
If there's anything you can do, we'd really appreciate it.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. Anything else?
I can get started with some
Sure.
questions that we had ahead of time. And I do know that Elle Baker, she did have to leave a little bit earlier tonight, but she has a really great understanding of what's going on over there in the Riverside. And if you ever want to reach out to her, she would be a good contact as well. So there were a few questions, Mayor, regarding the biolabs, and I do know that you talked briefly about Suffolk Downs, but I think the question is more so concerning the spreading of misinformation and how some folks are spreading misinformation, and then kind of just like what's going on down there. How can we kind of work together to get the word out to our community members about
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah, and I think that when folks have asked me about the life science space at Suffolk Downs, I bring people back to the fact that Massachusetts made an important and I think a good decision in terms of investing a lot of money into research around biotech and life sciences, in terms of saying this is, could be the next segment of our economy that's a driver of the way that the technology industry has been, and the way that they looked at, the state looked at the way that places like California invested in tech companies and in tech as an industry, and said, hey, they basically planted the seeds to allow for innovation around technology. And so in Massachusetts, we did that with life sciences. We did that with biotech and life sciences. And that investment came in terms of getting folks from the private sector, folks from academia, and folks from the public sector together and saying, how do we create, really like an industry here that can be homegrown, that we can take advantage of MIT and take advantage of Harvard and take advantage of all the smart brains that are here, and have some public investment and some private investment to see companies grow out of what would be, some investment. And we've seen that happen, with, we all have seen the impact of COVID, and the world turned their eyes to Massachusetts in terms of being able to provide or help provide a vaccine to combat that. So, the life science and biotech industry as an investment in the future is important. I think, unfortunately, some people from out of town kind of got an opportunity to talk a little bit of nonsense, and I think some people, may have been listening or have been misinformed. But what we're doing and what we want to see happen is, I had mentioned a pipeline of workforce and of young people who are going to school in Revere who can go through their education here, go off to college, and want to come back here and want to work here and be able to get a good six-figure job here. And right now, we don't provide those. As a community, we don't have a lot of six-figure jobs for young people to come back to Revere and work in. With the redevelopment of Suffolk Downs, we will. And with the biotech industry and the life science industry planting a flag here in Revere, those office spaces, those labs will be full of, hopefully, Revere residents and young people who came through our school district who are now working in their hometown and making good wages. So, I try not to let nonsense factor into what I do and the decisions I make, but sometimes that does happen. And, I think that it's unfortunate when folks kind of don't hear, or, we have a good crowd here. I love all of you. We don't have, 2,000 people. And it's a testament to all of you and your investment and your engagement in the community to come out, because a lot of people would just sit on their phone and scroll and see what someone who has no authority and no background to really to have information can spread a lot of misinformation. So, that's what I have to say about biotech. And if anybody has any questions or any comments about it, we're not killing dogs. We're not planning to kill rabbits and torture animals. Like, that's not what I'm interested in. That's not what I'm about. We could. Well, I would think that some people might want some rats, but no. But there was a lot of misinformation about dogs and cats and bunnies, and that's not the plan. The plan is to really take advantage of a growing industry in life sciences.
Thanks, Mayor. So the next question is kind of a double question regarding traffic concerns as well as school bus routes. Yep. So I do know we have some people here who might be able to speak on that as well, but I do know that there have been a couple of concerns through the questions about how lengthy it does take to drop the kids off at school, why the routes aren't the same as previous to the pandemic, and what are we doing as a district to kind of combat that?
Yeah, so I'll talk about traffic just generally, because I'm sure folks have their feelings about traffic and their thoughts and ideas. But especially for Ward 5 and for Pines and Riverside residents, I think it's important to call out the fact that, and we did a traffic study, and people can not believe this or not, but the fact is that the data tells us that 99% of the folks that are coming through our city in the morning and coming out of our city at night are not from Revere, right? So that traffic is in some ways out of my control. I think of it as being out of my control because there are people from outside the city that are coming into our city. And then people who are coming through our city because they're going back home. And so the only way that we're really going to make a dent on that is if we invest as a Commonwealth in rail and other modes of transportation to get people out of their car. And so if folks have seen, I hope you've seen, we've been partnering up with Lynn in terms of saying, hey, there's a real opportunity here to electrify the commuter rail that runs through both Lynn and Revere and goes into the city. If you electrify it, you basically allow for it to be almost modeled after the Blue Line, right? The trains don't run they could run more frequently if you electrify the rail. And we've been calling for, and we've gotten some money to help pave the way for a Wonderland commuter rail stop, which if we can build that and have a connection to the Blue Line, you would you could hopefully get some people off the road who are driving from Lynn and points north, who I know I have many folks that have told me that they live in Lynn, and actually the former mayor, Tom McGee, tells me all the time, if I'm going into Boston, I'm driving through your city. And he's like, there are thousands of others like me. And we live really close, but, and I have a commuter rail in my city, but I just can't get from here to there. What's that? Yeah. So there's that. I think that the real fundamental way that traffic is going to be addressed is by of creating other modes for people to be able to take, and that's why we've been such a staunch advocate for electrification and for being able to make that connection between Wonderland and the commuter rail. In terms of the bus routes, we have had some changes, and some of it is unfortunately money driven. The cost to transport children in our district went from roughly I think it was like $4 or $5 million, and it's jumped up to 10. And so $10 million, and to think about this in the scope of a municipal budget, 10 million is almost what I pay to fund the entire fire department. So and when we talk about cost drivers, seeing transportation go up that much in that short of a time, and there were a couple of driving factors. One is the fact that it's been really hard for bus companies to hire and have help. That it's impossible. Two is that there are very few folks who are in the school transportation industry, and so when we go out to bid, they're able to set their price, and there's nothing much that we can do about that. And they've used COVID and their challenges around hiring as a reason for them to have such high prices. So we have looked at other strategies, and Dr. Kelly, I'm sure, can talk about them, but we've talked about the other strategies that we can employ. But in terms of, so we had to look at that budget and at how we transport kids and say, if there are some routes that need to be consolidated, or if there are some efficiencies that we can find, we have to do that. And unfortunately, that leads to some disruption and some changes, and we don't like doing that, but with the cost of transportation going the way that it's going, it's untenable, and so we have to figure something out. And we've had a working group kind of thinking about this for a little bit, and we'll continue to take a look at what we can do. Ralph?
I have a comment on that, and I've been saying it for years, is a lot of the traffic for schools is set to do because we have people going from North Revere to Garfield because of middle school. Right. Hopefully with the new high school, we go to a central middle school. You're eliminating people from having to go, whether they're taking the school buses or their cars, having to go cross city. If we went back to the neighborhood schools, I think we would reduce a lot of that traffic for the school children in the morning. That seems to me, I don't know if the traffic studies have been done on that, but I think that's what causes a lot of traffic. I've been beating a dead horse by saying that for years, that's what causes a lot of the traffic in the morning and the afternoon, because you have people having to get their kids from North Revere all the way to Garfield, or Garfield all the way to SBA, and they're having to go across the city. And that's what causes a lot of traffic. Yeah, maybe at one time it was great that you wanted to segregate the kids, or not desegregate the kids and make them mix, but you're causing other problems in the city with congestion. Too many vehicles are on the thing. Also, I don't know what the relationship in size is for the district between Everett and Revere. We may have to come to the point that, we can't bus students anymore. It may come to that rationalization. I grew up partially in Everett, partially in Revere. I never got bused. We used to have to walk, or we used to have to take the MBTA. Most of our schools for middle school and high school are on the bus lines. The only situation that you have the problem with that is Point of Pines, because they are on a highway. So that is a special circumstance. They're way off the beaten path from any of the schools. So that's something else that has to be looked at. That's separately.
Yeah, and so a couple of quick things. One is, you're absolutely right that if we can have the old high school, what will be the old high school, be a central middle school, and eliminate the need for a lottery. I know the lottery is the bane of Dr. Kelly's existence. It's a really challenging system that we have. It's not fair. Well, it's as fair as it can be, but it's like generally a high level not fair. And so if we have that central middle school, that would go a long way in terms of hopefully alleviating some of that stress on families that have to go across the city. And then in terms of transportation, the one point that I'll say is that we actually do more than what we're legally required to, right? And so that's one thing that people kind of forget about, is that within that $10 million that we're spending, or now I think we cut it down to $9 million. But within that money that we're spending, we're doing more than what we're legally obligated to, and that's just a commitment to the families and to the residents of the city that we're not going to pull the rug out from under folks, but we're also going to try to be as efficient as possible. But you're right, and I guess that was something that I missed in saying, is that we do provide more transportation, and Rich Escape, the CFO, reminds me of that as well, and has reminded the school committee and other folks that we do provide more than what we're legally obligated to, even in the consolidation that we've had. So, any other online questions or?
One simple question about monkeypox in Revere.
Sure.
They just wanted to know how many cases we've had so far this year.
And Lauren's not here, right?
She is not able to attend.
But I think the last I talked to her, we had 8
Yes.
cases of monkeypox, and that's something that her and her team are on top of. And anyone that's worked with Lauren knows that she's a very diligent and tremendous find that we had actually during COVID. She kind of presented herself as somebody who was looking for a little bit of a career change and wanted to find out more of what it was like to work in a city, and she's been really tremendous.
That is all that we have for the pre-submitted questions. So we do have time for a couple of more from the audience. So if you have your question, now's your time.
Sorry.
Shoot.
I just got a text message.
No, yeah.
What is the city's long-term rodent control policy?
So I think we're going to continue on with what we've had, right? As Randy talked about a little bit, we did a pilot. We did an initial pilot. We actually had 4 vendors, right? That we started off with to see who we broke the city up into quadrants, and we said, okay, we'll give 4 vendors a shot, and we'll see how they do. And we worked with them, and then we landed on 2 that we liked. And we've each year have had money kind of supporting that program in terms of baiting. And I don't know if we know if any other cities do what we do. I know I've talked to a lot of other communities about what we do, and a lot of them say it's a little bit too expensive, but something that we've been committed to. So I think we're going to continue to do what we can do. The other piece that Randy mentioned is having our liaisons on board and being really proactive in terms of, if we know, so 311 is great because we get to hear what residents have to say, and we have like one-way communication in terms of knowing, okay, there's a pothole or there's rats here or whatever. But taking that a step further and saying, okay, we're identifying a problem, but now we're going to help use the data to do outreach in the community, and that's going to be their job, is really powerful, right? In terms of saying, okay, there may be, like, the real problem isn't the folks who are here who do the right thing, who are keeping their property clean. It might be, an absentee landlord. It might be somebody who, is a little bit older, doesn't know that there's a program like this. And so if we're able to get out there and knock on doors and say, hey, we know there's some problems here. It's a public health, potential public health issue, and we're here to help. We have this program. That can go a long way. So I think adding that component is going to be really, really important for what the future of a rodent program looks like.
Thank you. One question, the barrels.
Yep.
I know people have called to request a second barrel, and you guys did not have any on hand. They were on back order, but people were misinformed as well. They said that a barrel would cost $150 for a second barrel. Is that,
70, I believe
they
it's
were told
75, yeah.
150, and I was also told 150
Okay.
for a barrel.
Okay. No, it's
No,
75.
recently, this was about a couple of
Yeah.
months ago, when they were
Okay.
out of barrels.
Okay. No,
So it's 75
There's
still?
75, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
One more question this is in regards to Redgate.
Yep.
How is the city of Revere, how is the mayor and everyone in the city going to help us with keeping those 291 units off the private beach of the Point of Pines? It's coming, you know
Yeah,
it's coming,
yeah.
and you know this question was coming from me.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think-
how can you help me as
Yeah.
the president
Yeah.
of the Beach Association?
Yeah. I think it's going to be important for the residents to feel part of the community, right? And I say that in terms of understanding the history of the Point of Pines, right? I'm an Oak Island kid, so I know that the Point of Pines was off limits and private, and like in a place that you were not allowed. But those folks may not know that, right? And so I think that's going to be part of, as that building gets built, it's going to be important for them to be part of the community and understand that the Pines is a special place, and that it has, this unique kind of aspect in terms of the privacy that's allotted to the residents there, and that that it's a beautiful place. They're going to have a beautiful place to live as well. And so I don't think it's put up a wall and defend us. I think it's part of having that, embracing those folks and saying, hey, we're happy you're part of the community. We just want you to know a little bit about the community and understand the history of the community, right? And be really thoughtful about inviting folks, maybe not to come party, but say, this is a neighborhood. This is, we're family oriented. This is how we've kind of lived our lives as a neighborhood, and we'll help amplify that message. It is important. Like I said, I grew up in Oak Island. I mean, it was one of those things where, like I said, we would joke about the Pines being a private beach, like they were really fancy, but it's beautiful. I love it. I'm not hating on it. I love it. I'm just saying that I think it'd be important to not have an adversarial, kind of relationship with folks that are coming into the community. In fact, in terms of saying hey, this is what the rules are. The rules of the road are, and we can help amplify that. Yeah. John, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, my own feeling is that anyone who is going to be in the new development is going to have their own enormous swimming pool over there. They're going to have a partial private beach over there also, abutting their property. So I can't imagine too many people wanting to go over to Rice Avenue if they wanted to, let's say, use the toilet facilities or make a sandwich at noontime or something, that they want to stay at the beach. I mean, that would be an awful big task for them to do that. And I don't think too many people would do that. I think people would use their own area right over there because they'd have all the facilities.
Sorry, John, I have to rebuttal this. They are not going to have a beach there. They're going to have a rocky area. Now, if they have dogs, where are they going to bring their dogs? Are they going to walk over there, or are they going to run along my beach?
Well, so I will say, I think there's going to be there are going to be, some of the amenities that are around there, the open space, the fields, I know it may not be, the kind of beach as in terms of what the Pines has, but the plans for the walkway around that area are pretty nice. So, I think, if it's dogs that folks are worried about, I think that there'll be hopefully enough on the Riverside side to be like, hey,
I
we
understand
can
that,
go that
especially with
way.
the dog park that's
Yeah.
going to go
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But, I mean, people are going to want to walk the beach. They're not going to be able to walk the beach on the rocks
Right.
because it's only going to be a rocky ledge area is what I was told by
Right,
Redgate.
yeah.
So they are going to end up on our beach, and we are going to need your help, and
Yeah,
that's all
yeah.
that's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, I think it really, I want to underscore, it's important to have that open and, very clear communication and, and welcoming, right? And not saying like, this is ours and you are not to step here. Like, say, hey, this is the history of this community. This is a history of these properties. This is really important to us. This is who we are. And just respect that, right? And everybody can be respectful and say, hey, we do have private rights as residents here to this beach, and we hope you can respect that. And if you can't, then we'll have to deal with that, but I think it's important to start off with from a trusting, kind of open and respectful nature than an adversarial one.
Is the Riverside part of the Pines Association?
Not really.
No.
Some houses are, just a couple that actually have beach rights.
Okay.
They have deeded rights.
They have deeded
Yes.
rights to the beach, yeah.
Is there a public area on the Pines Beach that those residents could pay $100 a year to be able to use the beach?
That would have to go up against the membership, and it's up to the membership, not me.
That's a vote.
I'm one vote on that one.
No, that's a good point, Michael.
We've already discussed it.
That,
It's up to the
yeah.
membership. We'll deal
Yeah.
with it when that time comes.
yeah.
They come over in that new crosswalk.
Oh, boy. All right. Any, 8 o'clock? Any other questions, comments, anything?
Thank you for doing this for us.
No, thank you. Yeah. My pleasure. Yeah. All right.